Hi everybody, it's me, Tess, with Tess Loves This Yarn, and today is going to be the second video in my new series of learning to knit for people who have never held a ball of yarn before. Now, I know for a lot of you that is slightly shocking, but it's true. There are people out there who have never even held a ball of squishy yarn before. Shocking, I know, right? But I am here to change that. And hopefully there will be a lot of people who will learn how to knit and therefore will get some nice squishy yarn. Because there's nothing better than squishy yarn, right? Okay, so real quick before we get started, I wanted to say a big giant thank you to Debbie, the Canadian crocheter, because Debbie gave me the sweetest, absolutely amazing shout out the other day, and I just appreciated that so much. And actually, I'm a big fan of Debbie's, and I've been watching her for quite a while. And so to hear her shout me out and say my name, well, y'all, I almost fell out of my chair because I was so starstruck. I sure was. But Debbie is just the sweetest. And I know probably everybody here knows who she is. But if by any chance at all you don't know Debbie, the Canadian crocheter, well, please go check her out because she's amazing. And she does just beautiful, beautiful crochet work. So yeah, so I wanted to say that. And also, I wanted to let y'all know I've got my Mountain Dew here, Nectar of the Gods. And I've got my Stack's potato chips. And this morning, my pickle of choice is Vlasic Snackums. And these are the little kosher minis, little dill pickles. Yummy. Delicious, delicious breakfast. Okay, so let's get in to this learning how to knit. And you guys, I'm sorry if I'm talking a little too softly, but it is early 30 here. And of course, I am the only one in the house that's awake. Even my dogs are still sleeping. But I'm an early bird, so this is good for me, okay? And I don't have my coffee, and that's only because Superman dumped a boatload of stuff in front of my coffee maker. And I was just being too lazy to move it all. So there you go. I keep it real here, and I don't hold back. Okay, so let's get going on part 2 of learning how to knit. Now, the first thing we're going to do, we already have our stitches on our needles. We did that in part 1 of this series. So now we're actually going to learn how to knit the stitches that we have on our needles. Now we have to get the yarn and hold that in your left hand if you're a right-handed person. If you're a left-handed person, well, I would have to do a separate video for all you lefties out there. And I'm sorry about that. But for you right-handed people, it's important to learn how to hold your yarn, because holding your yarn correctly will give you the right tension on your yarn. And tension is really important because you want your stitches to be uniform, right? You don't want some to be real kind of big and others to be little because your tension is off. So that's why it's important to hold your yarn in a good way, all right? Now there are different ways to hold yarn, and they are mostly all correct. So the way I hold my yarn is on my left hand, I take my pinky and I grab it like this, and I come over my ring finger, under my middle finger, and over the top of my pointy finger, okay? And that's how I hold my yarn, and it gives me the proper tension, okay? So now I'm going to take the tail of my yarn, and I'm just going to hold it aside right here. And I'm going to take my other needle, and what you're going to do, see this, oops, got my little tools in my little bottle. But what you're going to do, you see this ridge back here that formed when you were putting your stitches on your needle? What you're going to do is you're going to hold that on the inside position. So it's facing your other hand. But you're going to make sure this yarn is behind your needle, okay? Don't have your yarn in front. That would be very bad for doing the stitch that we're going to do. Now there is a stitch called a purl that the yarn is in the front, but we're not doing that stitch today. So your yarn needs to be behind your needle. So we're just gonna put that behind the needle, okay? Now here we go. We're gonna take the needle that's in your right hand, and we're gonna slip it in to this very first loop, just like that. See there? Now we're gonna go behind this loop, this yarn, and we're gonna scoop it up just like this. And you know, you can use your other hands to help. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring it right in between these two stitches, okay? Just like this. And then we're gonna push this loop off of the left needle. And now your stitch is on your right needle. And this is how you make the fabric, okay? So once again, we're gonna go down under this stitch and come up like this with our needle. And then we're going to, here's my yarn back here. We're gonna scoop this yarn and bring it right through these two stitches, and then we're gonna pull it off of the right needle, okay? I mean the left needle. Oh my gosh, y'all, left and right. Ugh, it's early and I have no coffee. That's my excuse, and I'm going with it, all right? So let's do this again. So this is the way it's gonna look from the top. You're gonna stick your needle in there, and you're gonna scoop this yarn. And how you're gonna do that is you're gonna rotate that needle around, and you're gonna, see this? You're gonna grab that yarn and bring it right through these two stitches, and you're gonna whoop, let that yarn go off of the left needle and onto your right needle, okay? So now I'm gonna do it this way. We're gonna stick the tip of the needle in, gonna grab the yarn from behind and pull it through to the front, and then slide that loop off of this needle and onto the right needle. Okay? So let's do that again, and I'll do another one that you can see from the top. So we're going to insert the yarn, insert the needle right here under your next loop. We're going to insert that needle. This is how it looks. We're going to rotate it to the back, and here's your working yarn. You're just going to scoop that yarn up like so, and then you're going to push it off of the left needle and onto your right needle. Okay? Now, if your stitches are loose, don't worry about it. Okay? Because y'all are just learning. Now, eventually, you will not want loose stitches, and you won't want too tight ones either. You'll want a stitch that's right in the middle. That will be perfect, okay? So I'm going to show you again. You're going to insert the tip of the needle into your next loop that's on your left needle. And you're going to, here's your yarn behind. You're going to grab it by rotating your needle, and you're going to push it through these 2 stitches, and then you're going to push it off of your left needle so it is onto your right needle. Okay? So I'm just going to do that a couple of times, very slowly, so you guys can all watch. Okay? Very easy to do, so don't stress, because anything new is a learning curve, and y'all have to learn somewhere, right? So don't get frustrated if you're not getting this down the first time, okay? It just takes a little bit to get used to it. Now here's our very last stitch, and we're pushing it off that needle. Now you might say, what do you do now? And remember how I told you that this was going to grow? And it has. It's just the nature of knitting. So it's going to be about this wide now. Okay? And that's going to be about 5 inches. Let's check on my little grid here. Okay, this is 10, and this is 5. And it is going to be about 5 inches when it's all done. So, yeah, there we go. So now what you're going to do, you have taken all the stitches off your left needle, and you've put them all on the right needle. So now what we're going to do is we're simply going to switch needles. You're going to put the needle with the stitches always goes in your left hand, and the needle that you're taking the stitches off with always goes in your right hand. So left hand for the new row of stitches, right hand for your empty needle, which you're going to fill up with stitches. Okay? So once again, we're going to wrap our yarn around our hand. I'm scooping it up with my pinky. I'm pulling it across my ring finger, under my middle finger, and on top of my pointing finger. Okay? And my stitches are all lined up very straight. You do not want twisted stitches. If you twist your stitches, and by that I mean if your stitches kind of look like that on your needle, it is going to mess up your fabric. And you don't want messed up fabric. You want nice, pretty fabric, right? So don't get your stitches twisted, alrighty? So I'm going to fix my stitches back. There we go. And now if you look at this right here, it almost looks like 2 stitches, doesn't it? It's not really, because my yarn is in the front, and y'all know the yarn goes behind your needle. So I'm just going to move it so that my yarn is behind my needle, like this. So you see, I was holding it like this, which made it look like this was 2 stitches. And then when I pulled the yarn behind my needle, then you could see that it's really only 1 stitch. So don't make that mistake. Don't have your yarn in the front and think that these are 2 separate stitches, because they're not. And most people that are starting out make that mistake. But we're not going to, because I told you not to, right? And you guys are good listeners. I know you are. Alrighty, so let's do this again. All of my stitches are all uniform. I got them all going the right way, okay? I've got my yarn in my left hand and my empty needle in my right hand. And I am just going to do exactly what I did before. I'm going to take my needle, put it through that first loop, and use your other fingers, everybody. You've got fingers, use them. So what I do is I usually take my middle finger and I hold that loop down so it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm going to scoop this yarn right in between these 2 stitches, and then poof, off my needle, okay? And that's what we're going to do to this whole row of stitches. We're just going to simply insert our needle tip like so, rotate that needle to scoop that yarn in between these 2 stitches, and then we're going to slide the loop off, and it will then be on your left needle. So here we go. I'm just going to kind of go slowly, but in your mind, if you want, you can go tip, under, scoop, and off. So the tip goes under the loop, you scoop the yarn and slide it off, okay? So under, scoop, off. Under, scoop, off. Under, scoop, off. And here we are at the last stitch. Under, scoop, and off. So there we have it. Okay, and you see we're starting to form some fabric here. All right, so once again, we're going to switch our needles. So the needle with the stitches now on it was the right needle, but now it has all your stitches on it. So you're going to put it in your left hand, and we're going to start the process all over again. Make sure your stitches are straight. Make sure your yarn is behind your needle. And then here we go again. We're just going to repeat. We're going to put the needle under the loop, scoop the yarn right through the 2 stitches, and slide it off. So very, very easy. And I'm going to do a couple of rows so you can see what the fabric is starting to look like. Okay, so I'm kind of trying to go a little slow just so you can see the process again. But if you do need to see that process again, go ahead and rewind this video and just watch that beginning part again, okay? So that you can get that. Oop, my yarn was going a little crazy there. So, got a little splitting in this acrylic yarn, but that's no big deal. Okay, because once we get it knitted, you won't really even be able to see that. So, yeah. So, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to go a little bit faster here because I want to show you what your fabric is going to start looking at like. It's not going to be looking at anything, don't worry. We don't have haunted yarn here. It's just it's early and my brain doesn't work right in the very early morning. Unfortunately, but true. Okay? So make sure your stitches are all straight. Make sure your yarn is behind your needle. And then we're going to do it again. And put the tip in the yarn, the loop, the very first loop. We're going to scoop the yarn up in between these two stitches, and then we're going to slide it off. Okay? So those are the 3 things that you can just repeat over in your head like I did earlier. Okay? And as you go along, you will get faster, but for now, just take it very slowly and get used to knitting. And y'all, this is the garter stitch, and it makes your fabric like this, and it looks like this on both sides. So I'll show you now. See the back side? Looks just like the front side. Okay? Now there's another fabric called Stockinette, which you can make, and it looks very different from this. And we will learn how to do that one when I teach you how to purl. Okay? So that one will be the 4th video in the series. So this one is the 2nd one, and it's teaching you how to do a basic knit stitch. And that's what we're doing right here. Okay? The basic knit stitch. Okay, everybody, you're going to keep going. And remember, we're making a scarf. So you keep knitting this until your scarf is as long as you want it. Okay? Now I know y'all have number 5 or 6 bulky yarn with a size 11 or 13 needle. So I want you to knit this scarf, and let's see how many stitches I have on here. It's going to be a skinny scarf. If you want a wider scarf, you're going to need to put more stitches on your needle. So for this width of a scarf, you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches. That's how many stitches I have on here to make my skinny scarf, which is just almost 5 inches. See? It's almost 5 inches. And after I get it all done, it actually will be pretty spot on for 5 inches. Because when you first get cast on and get your stitches on your needle, it's not going to be as wide. But during the process, the yarn does something called, usually it blooms. And what that means is it just kind of stretches out a little. So keep that in mind when you're putting your stitches on your needle, okay? So everybody, your homework is to keep going with the with the knitting. My goodness. Y'all, I need that coffee pretty bad, I think. I might have to go in there and move all that boatload of stuff that Superman threw down on the counter in front of my coffee maker. How rude, y'all, how rude. All right, but I give Superman a break because he is an amazing husband, and he is also an incredibly awesome father. So anyway, I give him a break. But anyway, once again, I digress. But y'all keep knitting like this, where you're going to put the tip of the needle into the loop. You're going to scoop up that yarn by rotating. See, you're going to rotate your needle like this. See how I rotate that needle? So rotate that needle and scoop that yarn right here. This is the yarn that you're going to scoop. See? Here's the yarn right here. You're going to scoop it and pull it through this side like this. You're going to pull it through this loop that's right here, these two loops. Now don't make the mistake of grabbing this part of your loop. All you're going to do is you're going to scoop up this yarn right here that's attached to your ball. You're going to scoop it up and bring it underneath the front loop right here. So don't mistakenly get the wrong yarn. So you're going to get the yarn from the ball. We're going to scoop it up. And you're going to slide it off. So just keep saying those things in your head as you're working, and it gets a lot easier. So anyway, go ahead and keep doing this until your scarf is as long as you want it, okay? And then come back for video number 3, which is going to show you how to bind off, which means how do you get the scarf off your needle and around your neck, okay? And that's what we're going to learn in video number 3, okay? So everybody, for your homework, you're going to continue knitting and make this scarf as long as you want it. And then you're going to come back here and you're going to watch video 3, which is going to tell you how to get the scarf off your needle so you can wrap it around your neck, okay? So that's all for this morning. And you guys, I love y'all so much. And just a wonderful shout out again to Debbie, the Canadian crocheter, for mentioning me and sending a lot of you guys over here to my channel. I just adore her so much, and I'm so happy to have all of you here on my channel, okay? So, once again, love you guys like mad and crazy, right? And I will see you soon for another video. So, until next time, be kind and be safe out there in the world, wherever you are. Okay? Bye, everybody.